There's a famous letter, a very famous letter. Good morgen, Yisrael. Good morgen. Shalom Aleichem Yisrael Tzemach, Eliyahu Tzvi, Meir Zev, and Avram Baruch. There's the famous letter from Baal Shem Tov, the Baal Shem Tov's letter, that the Baal Shem Tov wrote about a Mosei Ka'asi Mar L'cheshe Yefutza Ma Yonesecha Chutza. So what's the teichen of the letter? So first of all, the history of the letter is very interesting. That he wrote it to his shvager. The Baal Shem Tov's shvager was the Geshem Kitevit. He was living in Eretz Yisrael. And the Baal Shem Tov corresponded with him. I mean, if you're familiar with the history, when the Baal Shem Tov had to reveal himself, he wrote a letter to his shvager and said, I have to reveal myself. I want you to come and be with me. I don't want to be alone. Baal Shem Tov wanted to be surrounded by some Gedali Yisrael. He didn't want to be a Rebbe just for Pashta people. And of course, they gave him Kedur the Lashon, they gave him Shishim Gibayrim. But when the Baal Shem Tov revealed himself, it was who was drawn to a Yid who was a Baal Shem. Good morning, Shalom Bet, who was Eisik B'Kabbalah Maisis, and he was Refer Chelim and Mater Asurim and Seimach Neflim, all these things. Push the people. Baal Shem Tov had thousands and thousands of people who came to him for brachas. But he wanted some Gedalim around him also. The Snagdus, I mean, the obvious reason for the Snagdus, that the Baal Shem Tov was, you see a Yid, he comes along, Allah Poshat Yid and sehen sich nachem, Allah Gedali Yisrael kennen him nicht, it creates a... So he asked Reb Geshem Kitevit to stand with him, and he did. Later, Reb Geshem Kitevit moved to Yisrael. He became involved with the Eira Chaim HaKadosh Cheder. There's stories about how the Baal Shem Tov and the Eira Chaim HaKadosh had a relationship, which is not for right now. I mean, I used to say these stories were not true, because the Friedrich Rebbe never mentions them. And then in Tafshin Mem, out of the blue, the Rebbe said that the stories are true because Chassidim tell them. So in Tafshin Mem, the stories became true. The Ma'aseh Eira Chaim HaKadosh and the Baal Shem Tov. But anyway, so Rabbi Geshem moved to Israel, and the Baal Shem Tov used to write him letters. In Derech Mitzvah there's a mention of a letter which the Baal Shem Tov wrote to his shvager. And of course, the famous letter that he wrote is that it was Erev Rosh Hashanah Tov Reish Zayin. And the Baal Shem Tov made Aliyas on Shoma, Kedarkei. He went Aliyas on Shoma, he went up Lamailo, whatever that means. And he describes wandering around the Heicholos. First he says, I came Lamailo. It was a Moedendik Simcha. So I was thinking maybe this Simcha means at the time of my Histalkus had come, and they told me, no, this is a different Simcha. But this is not your time. And then I went with all the Neshamis, and they went higher and higher and higher. And then on the way back, he went into the Heichel HaMashiach. Kiyadu, this is the word. And when he came to the Heichel HaMashiach, the Baal Shem Tov asked Mashiach, said, Keno, Imosei Kasi Man, when are you going to come? So Mashiach told him two things. The one that we always talk about, the one that the Rebbe always talked about, and the one that you never really hear in Chabad. Mashiach told the Baal Shem Tov, Kishekol Yisrael, Yachadu, Yichudim, Kamaischa, V'shiyafutza Ma'nesecha Chutza. This is not word for word. I have... what's the word I'm looking for? If you want to see the original letter, on my website, I have a Rebbe section, and the Rebbe section I have a huge section on Mashiach that comes with PDFs, and I have this letter from the Baal Shem Tov there, that he told to him, when all Yidden are going to be able to be Yachad Yichudim like you, and your wellsprings are going to spread to the outside. So the hemshech of the letter is that Baal Shem Tov started to cry. I think he said he even fell down. He cried, D'mois Shlish, cried very bitterly. Why did he cry? Because the Baal Shem Tov said, I realize it's going to be a very, very long time before Mashiach comes. Now, of course, the end of the story is very interesting, that the letter never made it. Baal Shem Tov was sent, this letter was sent by Baal Shem Tov to go to Eretz Yisrael, to Rabbi Geshem Kitevit. Had it come to Eretz Yisrael, it would have been lost. But because it stayed in Europe, and it was found after the Baal Shem Tov passed away, and I'm assuming also after Rabbi Geshem Kitevit passed away, So it stayed in Europe. And one of the first Sifrei Chassidus ever printed, which is called Ben Peres Yosef, which was printed, I think, 18 years before the Tanya. The Tanya is Tav Kuf Nun Zayin. The Ben Peres Yosef, I think, is Tav Kuf Lamed Tes. One of the earliest Svarim of Chassidus ever printed. In the beginning of that Sefer, you have this letter. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, whoever didn't say good morning to. Good morning, Menachem Mendel Ezra. Good morning, Chaim Shalom. Good morning, Menachem Mendel. Mireish Kol Hatzoros in America, Minnesota. Welcome to all of you. Anyway, this letter was printed. And of course, later on, when the Rebbe printed the Kesef Shem Tov, the Rebbe printed only 3 Svarim from the Baal Shem Tov. The Sefer Tzavos Harivosh, and then Kesef Shem Tov, and then Mezitcher Magid. He printed whatever it is, Magid Devar Yankev, and Teir, I think it's called. But in the beginning of the Sefer Kesef Shem Tov, the Rebbe printed this letter from the Baal Shem Tov. He reprinted it. Anyway, so the story that goes with the story is that it says in the letter that Baal Shem Tov heard me be Mashiach. That Mashiach is not going to come until Kol Yisrael Yiyachdu Yechudim Kameis, all Yechudim like you. And the Baal Shem Tov cried, and it says why. It says in the letter that he's crying because it's going to take so long. So Behem Shechazad, there's a story that the Rebbe also mentioned, was Meramis. What's the story? That the Alter Rebbe and the Baruch Mezhebush had a machlekes about what's the pshat of the Baal Shem Tov's terer. What is the meaning of the Baal Shem Tov's tear? Even though the Baal Shem Tov made it clear, what is the meaning of his tear, right? He was crying because it's going to take so long for Mashiach to come. So the Alter Rebbe touched it, bepashtus. The Rebbe touched it, that like the Baal Shem Tov himself wrote, that why was the Baal Shem Tov crying? Because he was thinking how long it's going to be till Mashiach comes. But the Baal Shem Tov's biological grandson, his daughter's son, the Baruch of Mezhebush, who, by the way, never knew the Baal Shem Tov. The Baruch Mezhebush was born Tav Kuf Chav Gimel, 3 years after the Baal Shem Tov's Histalkus. He had an older brother, must have been a much older brother, whose name was the Degel Machne Ephraim. Rabbi Ephraim of Sidlikov. He not only knew the Baal Shem Tov, he learned by the Baal Shem Tov and wrote down Divrei HaBaal Shem Tov. One of the greatest sources of Torah that we have from the Baal Shem Tov is from the Degel Machne Ephraim. So the Baruch held that the significance of the Baal Shem Tov's tear was the Baal Shem Tov was crying about Tishtapechna Avnei Kedesh B'reish Kol Chutzes. That something so holy like Pnimius Ateda, like Rosen Chassidus is going to roll in the streets. Every Barbe Rav, the Chadiyim is going to learn. He's not even going to know what he's learning. He's not even going to know what he's understanding. He's not even going to know what it means. He's not going to know how to be miyakid. So the Alter Rebbe cried. The Alter Rebbe interpreted the Baal Shem Tov's tear that it's going to take so long for Mashiach to come. So the Alter Rebbe undertook Hafat Samayonis. The Alter Rebbe undertook to teach Chassidus Chabad as much as possible, like it says in the Teir Shalom. That noch Peterburg, the Ikirim from Yifutzah Manasech HaChutza, after the Alter Rebbe came out of jail, then started real Pnimius HaTorah on a madreg of Chochma Bina Vadas, and the Baruch Mezhebush fought against him. The Baruch Mezhebush held that Pnimius HaTorah, Chassidus is not supposed to teach. You know, the Chernobyl told the Mittel Rebbe, I think, Yukach no ma'at mayim, you'll need a little bit of water. So the Mittel Rebbe answered, Doesn't give in for Malachim, for mentioned of Masach. But this is the story. You asked me to start with the story. What happened was, Rabbi Isai, I never came less late than normal. So I was early based on my prior record. So a lot of you were not here. So I asked him, Baruch, what should I do? So he said, I should start with a story. So I started with a story. And this was the story. That what? That the Baal Shem Tov was told 2 things. And you know, I've heard people ask this question and I don't know an answer. And I never saw an answer in the Rebbe Siches. The Baal Shem Tov was told 2 things. That Mashiach's coming depends on Shekol Yisrael Yachdu Yechudim Kamoischa. Every Yid is going to do Yechudim like the Baal Shem Tov, which B'chol doesn't make any sense. How could anybody do Yechudim like the Baal Shem Tov? And number 2, Yefutzah Manasech HaChutza. So of course, the Rebbe tzach stark gekocht in the zweite Wort. The Rebbe, his whole Metzias was Yefutzah Manasech HaChutza, right? Especially the first 10 years of the Rebbe's Metzias was Be'ikeh to be Makar from a Yid until the Bavitch. And the Rebbe tzach gekocht sehr stark in Yefutzah Manasech HaChutza. Yefutzah Manasech HaChutza. So when people ask me this question, I usually hear them from people who are like they're not fully Lubavitch. They like Hasidus and they're into it, but they don't understand why we don't talk about Yechudim. And I don't have an answer. Chavish Kateretz. The only teretz I have is that the Rebbe saw the Baal Shem Tov's letter. He knows what it says there. And the Rebbe knew that even though it says in the letter two things, the inyan of Mashiach depends on this one thing, of those two, of Yefutzam and Asecha Chutzah. Now, Baruch Hashem, the element is Gekommen, Mervenik, most of you are here. So we're starting Perek Yud of the Maimed. Okay, we're going to start now Perek Yud inside, and you'll see that the Perek Yud inside has to do with the story I just told. Because Perek Yud talks about Yechudim. Look at the first line. Page 236. Based on what we discussed above. Above means specifically Perek Ches and Tes. And more generally it means everything from Perek Beis. Yetzei lanu biyur nechmut. We now have a very sweet explanation. Be'inyan ha-yichudim ha'al-yenim. You see that word, Yichudim ha'al-yenim. The supernal unities. She'eschalnu l'daba behem. We began to discuss them. The Il Eis Beis in the beginning of Perek Beis. What happened was, after the Rebbe started, the Tzemach Tzedek started talking about davening. As soon as he started talking about davening, he started talking about the contrast between Krishma and Tefillah. That Krishma is a higher yichud in a lower world. And Tefillah is a lower yichud in a higher world. Krishma is a yichud avon and Bria. And Shmoneh is a yichud zun in Atzilus. So the Rebbe said, in order to explain this, I have to give a Hagdama. If you go back to the first page of the Maimed, which is Daf Kuf Tezvav Amud Aleph, or in the English numbers it's 229. Yeah? So the Rebbe quotes this Kisvei Arizal about Yichudim, and he says, V'nei kedem she is bad, in yana Yichud ma, yesh lahagdam ha'ara echad. That ha'ara echad just finished. That ha'ara echad, which the Tzemach Tzedek started at the beginning of Perek Beis, took 8 perakim. From almost the beginning of Perek Beis till the end of Perek Tes, he was mavayed ha'ara echad. What's the ha'ara echad? Quote, Lahafshid hadvorim migash miyusam. That we should understand edel and not grob, ruchniisdik and not muchshiisdik, the whole inyan of Yechudim. So we went into the whole thing of B'chol Kein V'Lov, Elav Elav Mideisav, and L'chavam B'Shem, and all these other goody things that we did. So the Tzemach Tzedek says, now that we went full circle, I finished my Hagdama, which started in Perek Beis and went through Perek Tes. Let's go back to the original thing, which is Yechudim. That Krishma is Yichud Avon Bria, and Shmoneh is the Yichud Zun and Atzilus. But the Tzemach Tzedek says you have to understand the Hagdama that I just gave you adds a Biyur Nechma that explains the Yichudim Meidendik. It helps explain the Yichudim Meidendik. Okay? The Hine, I'm just going to read a few words. I'm translating a Mergonisht. It's known to all people who will study this form of the Mekubalim. K'mei bepardes, or bekisvi ha'arizal. The Mekubalim hold that the primary desire, want of a person, to create unions, marriages on high, there's a lot of levels and steps in the whole inyan of Yechudim, based on the kind of Yichud which is taking place. Kahu malas hayem has to do with time itself. Shabbos beifen zeh, Yom Tov beifen ached, v'chein b'reish chedesh v'chol. The Alter Rebbe mentions that Abyssal in Tanya, Perek whatever it is, Lamed Tes, Yechudim. So the Rebbe says that the Mekubalim all say that the whole inyan of Yiddishkeit is Yechudim. And Yechudim changes from mitzvah to mitzvah, but it also changes from day to day. Shabbos is one yichud, Yom Tov is the second yichud, Chalamed is the third yichud, Chanukah Purim is the fourth yichud, Rish Chodesh is the fifth yichud, the Tanesim is the sixth yichud, and a regular day is the seventh yichud. Every day is a different yichud. So Moedav and Rabbi say, I want to pause here and discuss yichudim. Now I really don't remember if when I taught you Perek Beis, I gave you extensive. The truth is I could look it up. It will work. I don't remember when I did Perek Beis whether I gave you a lengthy discourse on the Inyan of Yechudim. Give me a second. But you're going to look. Okay, I didn't. I'm going to do it now, okay? I didn't do it then, so I'm going to do it now. I want to talk to you about this. You know, anytime you have a conversation like this, the way these conversations go is you beat around the bush. You talk about anything but the conversation, and then slowly you come closer and closer to the Inyan. Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit. I'm not going to give you a week's worth of speeches because I don't have a week's worth of speeches, but the Inyan of Yehuda. Okay, this is it's a good conversation to have. I like to have it. I find excuses to share this with people because it's an angle in Yiddishkeit that you don't hear a lot, okay? Torah is full of parts. I don't have to tell you. Torah has many, many parts, many, many styles, right? I always tell you that Torah can be written only in 2 ways. In 3 ways, actually. There are 3 models for Torah B'Klos. The first model is the model of the Tanakh. That you write a sefer like a medrash, you go on the Seder Bereshis, Nech, Lach Lecha. The second model is the model of the Shas. Zroyim, Moyed, Nashim, Nezikim, Kochim, Tares. And the third model is the model of the Rambam, who wrote the Shulchan Aruch. The Rambam set the stage for the Shulchan Aruch. So there's not that many ways to write out Torah, okay? 90% of Sfarim that you'll open, 90%, maybe more, will follow one of these 3 patterns. Some Sfarim will go according to the Seder of the Parashas, like the Rebbe Siches, for example, or the Maimorim, they go according to the Parashas. They go according to the Rebbe says, Maimorim go according to the years, but they go according to the Parashas. Some Sfarim will follow the Seder of the Shas, like the Rishonim and Achreinim and Forshim. And some Sfarim will follow the order of the Shulchan Aruch. Those are basically 3 orders. But it's not mamish, all Sfarim that follow those patterns. Some Sfarim have a pattern of their own. Like, for example, our Sefer. Sefer Derech Mitzvah doesn't follow the pattern of the Parashas, doesn't follow the pattern of the Shas, it doesn't follow the pattern of the Rambam. It follows the pattern of the Sefer HaMitzvahs, of the Chinuch. This is a unique area in Torah. It's a different aspect. When you talk about Torah, one of the sugyas in Torah is Sifrei HaMitzvahs. Sifrei HaMitzvahs, these books that Pasha tell you which are included in the Taryag Mitzvahs. And the oldest we have is Chveis from Rabbi Shlomo having the Sag with the Pirush of Sheba Gabriel, I think. And then you have the Bahag, and then later, of course, you have the Rambam, and then you have the Chinuch, and then you have the Ramban, and then you have many others. Sifrei HaMitzvahs. Sifrei HaMitzvahs are books of Torah that don't follow. Well, the truth is the whole vart of the Chinuch is that he wrote a Sefer. The Chinuch basically wrote the Sefer HaMitzvahs La Rambam over. Except that the Rambam wrote it in the Rambam's own order, and the Sefer HaChinuch wrote according to the Parshas. So I guess there are Sifrei HaMitzvahs that also follow the Parshas, as did the earlier ones, the Rasag and the Bahag, I think. But the Rambam wrote the original order of Sefer HaMitzvahs. It's original order, and it's not even the same as the Mishnah Torah. It's unique. But one of the things about Sefer HaMitzvahs, which is very important, is Tamei HaMitzvahs. Those people who collected mitzvahs, right? The Taryag, the Gemara says, Taryag, mitzvahs, nitli, so we have 613 mitzvahs. The shaila is only, what are they? And like I told you in a previous shir, that I have a sefer, that if you count up all of the possible mitzvahs, according to all of the shittas, you get over 1,200. In other words, there's twice as many possible mitzvahs as the number 613 allows for. And you have to figure out, the Rambam, the Bahag, and all the rest had to figure out which ones yeah and which ones no, based on klolim. Every Sefer HaMitzvahs always starts with, like the Rambam has Shoroshim, every Sefer HaMitzvah has to start with klolim. And these klolim tell you what is included in the mitzvahs and what is not included in the mitzvahs. And of course, the many mitzvahs argue about what the klolim are, so the male they argue about what the pratim are. Anyway, Sefer HaMitzvahs is a world. But one of the things that the people who wrote Sifrei HaMitzvahs did is that they wrote Tamei HaMitzvahs, reasons for mitzvahs. And this you find a lot in Rishonim, right? You learn Chumash with Ramban, with Even Ezra, with Rabbeinu Bechaya, one of my favorites for him. They sometimes, not always, sometimes, why? Why? What is the reason for this mitzvah? What's the reason for this mitzvah? What's the reason for this mitzvah? And so on. I would say that the earliest people who give Tamei HaMitzvahs in a comprehensive way would be the Psadia Gaon, and then of course the Rambam. Psadia Gaon in the Sefer Emunos V'Deis, and the Rambam has the second half of the third chelik of Meir Nevuchim is dedicated entirely to Tamei HaMitzvahs. He has like 17 or 18 perakim, or 19 perakim, or 20 perakim on Tamei HaMitzvahs, and first he has a bunch of like klolim, and then he has 14 perakim, just like in the Mishnah Torah. He has 14 Sfarim, so on the Meidei Nevuchim he has 14 Perakim dedicated to 14 categories of mitzvahs, and he gives timing. The Rambam gives, in one page you can give a time of 50 mitzvahs, because he writes so bekitzer. The Rambam gives timing on mitzvahs, as did Rasag and others. So there's a lot of different timing on mitzvahs. So of course the Klal Gadol Amru, the most important thing to know, the Rambam even says this, but this of course is very, very true according to Hasidus, that the mitzvahs of the Eibishter are Gezeres. Right? Seif Hilchas Tmura, right? I think. Seif Hilchas Me'ila. Seif Hilchas Me'ila. Which is the end of Avodah. Maybe it's Tmura. It's either Avodah or Kabbalah. I always forget. Okay? The Rambam writes, mitzvahs are Gezeres, which means you cannot give reasons for mitzvahs. But kol she'efshel l'seis leitam ten leitam. You have to try, even though you know that when you're giving a tam for a mitzvah, the real reason for the mitzvah is the Eibishter said. But any mitzvah that you could give a tam to, you should give a tam to. And I believe that Rambam also says that even when you give a tam for a mitzvah, it's not safe time on mitzvahs. You're never going to know the real reason, because time a mitzvahs lein is gal, so we don't really know the reasons for mitzvahs. So the Rambam holds that there's a chiyuv. The Rambam's whole shita is that everything has to be as much as possible al pi seichel. That's his shita, to try and understand everything. And the Rambam's approach to seichel is so down to earth. It's so reasonable. It's so real. The Rambam says any in Yiddish you could give a tam for, you should give, but you should know that the ikir in a mitzvah is gzeres, and you're giving time in because you're supposed to try and understand. And of course, one of the most obvious examples for this, and I've told this to you before in this shiurim, is kan tzipor, right? It says in the Mishnah in Brachas, Ha'emer al kan tzipor yagiu b'chamecha mishat kenes. If somebody says that the Eibishter has so much rachmanis, that even rachmanis on a bird, on a wild bird, with baderech, right? Ki kore baderech, a wild bird, mishat kenes, to quiet him. Why? Because taka, there's a mitzvah, shalech ta shalech as ein b'sabonim tikach loch. It's a mitzvah say de'eraisa that if you want to take away from a mother her babies, to eat them or to harvest them, you have to send away the mother first, then take the children. It looks like rachmanis. So the Mishnah says, anybody who says that the reason for this mitzvah is because Eibishter has rachmanis, tell him to be quiet. Don't let him talk. And then in the same sequence you have Moed Mishat Kanese and so on, because you're afraid that he has more than one God. So Mishat Kanese is a serious thing. Why? Because mitzvahs, the Chazal speak about it, because mitzvahs are gzeres, finished. Mitzvahs don't have reasons. So the Rambam and Meidei Nevuchim brings kan tzipor, and he writes, you should know that the reason for mitzvahs kan tzipor, shlocha kan is rachmanis. And then he writes weiter, and I know that the Mishnah says you're not allowed to say it, but I'm saying it because it's true. And then the Rambam says, why am I arguing with the Mishnah? The Mishnah says it's Mishat Kanese. So the Rambam says, because the Mishnah doesn't want you to think that that's the whole reason for the mitzvah. When the Mishnah says, the pshat in this Mishnah is that people shouldn't think to have God figured out. If the only reason, if the complete reason, if the total reason for Shiluach HaKan is Rachmanis, then people are going to say, like Shlomo HaMelech said, I'm smart enough to know, Liyar B'lei Susim, Liyar B'lei Noshim, Mirvet es nit shaten, and we all know what happened. Mitzvahs are gzeres. Mitzvahs are above time. But you have to try, according to the Rambam, you have to try and understand as much as possible. Now, when you add Hasidus to this, Hasidus adds another dimension, because of course Hasidus, in contrast to the Rambam, believes in L'mayla min haseichel. The Rambam doesn't believe in L'mayla min haseichel. The Rambam believes in L'mayla min seichel enushi. The Rambam holds that the Eibishter is seichel. Now, but then, logically, he's smarter than us. So the Eibishter weiß, that wir können nicht verstehen. So the Rambam therefore says, you always have to know that mitzvahs are gzeres, meaning to say we don't know the real reasons for mitzvahs, but the Eibishter does. We have a chiyuv to give a time for mitzvahs as much as we possibly could. Mashenken, according to Hasidus, it's not the pshat that Hashem is smarter than us and we don't really know what He's thinking. It's the pshat by the Eibishter. There's a concept called the Ratzon, and mitzvahs are called the Ratzon Elyon, and Ratzon Elyon is higher than a Chochmeh. And like it says in Hasidus, the Torah is full of mitzvahs. Torah is Chochmah, and mitzvahs are Ratzon. So the Torah is carrying and transmitting to us something which is higher than the Torah itself. Torah is Chochmah Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the mitzvahs are the Tzedek Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In the Torah, which is Chachmach, you have also the mitzvahs which are the Tzeinei Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that are above Seichel, that a person has to know that the mitzvahs of the Eibishter are L'mayla min Atam V'das, and you have to keep them on that level. Then you have Taimim, right? Chassidus is full of reasons. The Kabbalah is full of explanations for mitzvahs. So Chassidus always says that the Tam is a Murkav. The Ratzon, the mitzvah itself, is L'mayla min Atam L'gamre. It's very similar to what the Rambam says. Kol she'ef shalitin leitam, ten leitam. The way mitzvahs comes into Torah, there are taimei mitzvahs for many of them, not for all of them. Or like the Rebbe brings from the Rambam a lot, for the klal of the mitzvah, not for the pratim of the mitzvah. V'chol ki yetze b'zeh. So the Chassidus and Kabbalah hold that mitzvahs are rotzen. Pnimius rotzen v'chatzi amiti, right? Which means that l'mayla min hatam l'gamri is not even ein tam kamas l'rotzen. There's no time whatsoever for mitzvahs. But the way mitzvahs come down into the Torah, there are taimim, and you're supposed to find them. So, say according to the Rambam, and say according to the Kabbalah, in different ways, we say we don't really know the reasons for mitzvahs, but the reasons that we're able to give, we have to give. So when you study the sugi of taimei mitzvahs, I mean, it's not a complicated sugi, it's just very spread out. When you study the sugi of taimei mitzvahs, you come up with verschiedene rayonis. When you look in the Chaykim, the classic Chaykim would be the Psad Yegon and the Rambam. And I never learned Ikrim. Say for the Ikrim, I never learned Kuzri, so I don't know what those Svarim say. And I don't like to make it look like I know more than I know, or that I'm going to guess correctly. I never learned Kuzri, and I never learned Sefer Ikrim. That I didn't learn Sefer Ikrim doesn't bother me. That I didn't learn Kuzri does bother me. So I don't know. But I also learned the Rishonim, the Ramban, the Rabbeinu Bechaya, that brings a lot, the Even Ezra. The Chaykim give reasons for mitzvahs a lot. The Rambam, the Rasag, and others, the Ralbag, the Even Ezra, they give reasons for mitzvahs. When the Chaykrei Yisrael, when the non-mystical theologians, when the philosophers who did not learn Kabbalah officially, or actually, bring taimei mitzvahs, they go into two groupings. And I told this to you before. The first level of taimei mitzvahs is Midas Tevis. The number one reason that the Eibush gave us mitzvahs is that we should have Midas Tevis. This is Taka mentioned in Igeres HaKedesh, Chavbeis, Benegay Tzedakah, right? The Alter Rebbe is Al-Kei Lefirei V'Maiseh, and the Alter Rebbe writes, Kamei Shekosav HaRambam. It's a Rambam in Pirkei Avos. Al-Kei Lefirei V'Maiseh, if you could give $100 to Tzedakah, or you could give 100 ones is more than $100. Why? Because every time you put your hand out to give, you're mavarer your midas. And the reason for mitzvahs is bided midas, so it's better to give smaller amounts more often than larger amounts less often, because when a person gives tzedakah, is mavarer his midas. And kol ha'teira kula is midas tevis. The whole teira is midas tevis. I learned yesterday a maimer from the Rebbe from Tafshalam B'Ches, Kol Yisrael Yeshem Chelik Elam Haba, where the Rebbe says 3 different reasons why the Messiah is connected to Pirkei Avos. And one of them is that in order to get the Torah, you have to mevarer your midas. And another one is, once you have the Torah, le'nitnu ha-Torah, le'nitnu ha-mitzvahs, el etzara b'emes abriyas. The whole reason for mitzvahs is midas tevis. So this is an idea. Level number 1, what do you gain? By keeping Eibish's mitzvahs, you refine your character. And it's a real serious thing. If a person learns Torah and does mitzvahs, and it has no effect on his character, then there's something wrong. Living a life of a fruma yid is supposed to make you a good person, with midas tevis. But in other blachaveri, keep shooting, bevalas on the midas, to get rid of kas, and to get rid of gaiva, and to get rid of kina, and to get rid of sinna, to get rid of tachros, to get rid of chanufa, to get rid of leitzonis, all the midas reis. A person who keeps Torah mitzvahs, zimidaf, it's mevarer his midas. That's category number 1 in taimei mitzvahs. And category number 2 is deis nechenas. And again, this you also have in the Rambam and in the Saga. And the Rebbe used to always quote the words leyasher adeis. There's 2 lashonos, lataken halavavis, leyasher adeis. I forgot the exact wording, but the Rebbe used to analyze every single word in the Rambam. Leyasher adeis. A human being has deis. Deis means ideas in his head, not practical things, but in his head. Philosophical ideas. Deis means attitudes, how I look at life, how I look at the world. And how I look at people, and how I look at myself, and how I look at my time, and how I look at my money, and how I look at my power, and how I look at my family, and how I look at my friends. Deis means hashkofis, mabatim, how people look at the world, right? To give you an example, it says in Pirkei Avos that there's a category of human being that's called the roshus. Roshus means politicians. And the Pirkei ever says when it comes to Rosh, you should be careful. You know why? Because politicians are human beings who have no soul. You know, they say that in politics there's no friends, there's no enemies, only opportunities. You can't love anybody, you can't hate anybody, you just take advantage of each other. This is the antithesis of Midas Tevis is politicians. They'll do anything to win an election. They'll use anybody to win an election. They'll use them to help that person, to hurt that person, whatever's going to serve them. That's what they have in the Roshus. She'ein mekarvin leila adam el letzerech atzman nirin ke'ev mishas ha'na'asan. And they don't come to a person b'shas dochke. When you need them, all of a sudden there's anything. I mean, the Mishnah Pirkei Avos, in a few lines, describes the politician so succinctly. It was written 2,000 years ago, and it's so relevant today, it's unbelievable. But not everybody is a Rosh. Not everybody is a politician. So Emerson mentioned. And Emerson mentioned the yesod of the midas is the deis. Before a person has good midas, they have good deis. In order for a person to refine his character when it comes to kas and to gaiva, to kin and to sin and to litzonis and to chanuf, all these midas rois, you have to have good deis. Deis means how you look at the world. Yeah? For example, you know what's a good day? A good day is a good day is a good day is a giber hameskabel al yitzrei. Hakevish is yitzrei. Those are good philosophies. Those are good ideas. If a person lives his life and he's always jealous of his neighbor, it's a rachmanas on him. If a person lives his life and he says, what the Eibishter gave me is perfect, Baruch Hashem, I don't need anything more, he's such a lucky person. Well, that's not a mido. That's a deya. It's a hashkafa. You guys are growing up. Yeah, you guys are growing up. Some of you grew up in a home where you had enough panas. Some of you grew up in a Rome, we had a lot of panas. Some of you grew up in homes where you didn't have enough panas. And all of you are growing up thinking how your home is going to be. And of course, there's two basic approaches to how your home is going to be based on the home of your parents. One day is, I want my house to be exactly like my parents. And the other day is, I want my home to be in no way like my parents' home. And this goes when it comes to Shalom Bayis, and it goes when it comes to Parnasa, and it goes when it comes to Chassidischkeit, and it goes when it comes to Chinuch. And every area of life, there's such a thing called Deis. In Kop, wie me tracht, wie me guckt auf der Welt. In your head, how you look at the world. And Deis is the source of Midas. When a person has a good Ashkafa Seilam, you know, in California, they have a day it's called standard of living. It's a disease. It's a machla shenkamei. Standard of living means people who have to live a certain way. To live this certain way, they need a certain amount of money. And to get that money, they can do anything. Why? Because they're not getting this money because they want to be rich. Standard of living. Standard of living means medem b'nechamensh. I have to live in Beverly Hills, and I have to drive this many cars, and I have to socialize with these people, and I have to eat in these restaurants, and I have to wear this clothes. Costa chasach geld. No, so how do I get that money? So whatever way possible. It's a day of standard of living. The beginning of my hashkafa seilam begins with how I'm going to live physically. And on that basis, then I have to figure out how to get the resources necessary to live that way, whatever the cost. It's a day of kojeves, it's a day of achura, it's a day of shvela. This is kadeya. A human being has to develop good deis. And the Rambam writes, and the Rasag writes, that Torah and mitzvahs give us deis nechenes. The second reason for mitzvahs, the second madrega of timing mitzvahs, is that it gives me deis. It gives me good values. It tells me to look at the world through healthy eyes. Yeah, right. Forgive me for saying this. Yeah, a person's going to get married. What's the most important thing? That his wife should be pretty. Or that should be a mensch. There should be an Eishes Chayil who wants to bring Yiddish kinder into this world. There's a gesunte kinder. Yeah, so one person chooses like this, one person chooses like this, and then your whole life is lived out based on that choice. Deis. You have to have a good ashkaf. Yeah, you grew up in a house like you didn't have enough. And not having enough is not comfortable. It's really not comfortable. And of course, the hardest part of not having enough is that your friends have more than you. But if you have good days, you say, I want to live more better than my parents, but I'm not going to sell my soul for it. My days have to be, I want a home that's peaceful, and that's loving, and that's kind, and that's nurturing, and that's inviting. And the most important thing in that home is chinuch of Yiddish kinder. Chinuch of Yiddish kinder is not nice clothing for Yom Tov. Chinuch of Yiddish kinder is kametz alafaz, teira tiva l'nomation. There's a deya. It's a cook. It's a look at the world. And mitzvahs give us deyas nechenes. Just like on the first level, mitzvahs give us midas tevis. On a higher level, mitzvahs give us, the Eibishter gave us mitzvahs to straighten out our brain. How we should look at life, how we should look at the world, how we should look at ourselves, how we should look at others. And the Metzias Hadvarim is, the fact is, that a people who have deyas nechenes, pashat, have a good, happy life. And people who have deyas kezves, deyas eitzves, they can have everything in the world and they're pashat miserable because in their head they're messed up. Just to give you one example, one of the worst things a human being could be is jealous. And jealousy can be on two levels. Jealousy could be a midara, I'm pashat a jealous person. And jealous could be a deyara. What's a deyara? If I don't have this kind of standard of living, there's something wrong with me. That's a deya. That I'm jealous of my neighbor, I wish my neighbor had, that's a midah. But that in order to be a mensch, you know what that you're a mensch is that you drive a fancy car. If you drive a car which is less fancy, it's not the pshat you're poor. It's the pshat you can mensch nicht. That's a deya. And Torah teaches midas tevis, and it's moitzi kol midaro maguna, like it says at the beginning of a yem yem. And Torah teaches deyas nechenes. This is the second. Now, Rabbi say both of these ideas are found in Sifrei Machshava of non-Mekubalim, of the Chokrim. Then you get to the third. And the third is Yechudim. And by the way, above Yechudim there's more. Above Yechudim there's Birurim. Above Birurim there's Tshuva. And above Tshuva there's Nisyenis. And above Nisyenis is the idea of Ratzon Atzmi, of Atmas and Mosein Tzav Baruch Hu, or Nis'ave for Diri B'tachtein. So I'm going to talk through these days, right? I'm going to waste time, yeah? What's Yechudim? If you look at your question sheet, I wrote that Yechudim has two levels, a simple level and a deeper level. Yechudim means to bring together Kochabrichu and Shchinte. Bepashtas, it means in Atzilos, to be Meisefed in Atzilos. Now, again, there's two aspects to Yechudim. There's a simpler aspect to Yechudim, and there's a deeper aspect to Yechudim. I don't have enough time. I've been talking for 35 or 40 minutes already. So I'm going to say a word, and then I'm going to stop. You go into your rooms, and then we'll work that out. But I'm going to talk about Yechudim tomorrow. There's not a lot of questions for you to answer, because I started this year. And I want to dedicate, just like I explained Midas Tevis in more than 2 seconds, and just like I explained Deyas Nechenes in more than 2 seconds, I certainly want to explain Yechudim in more than 2 seconds, because that's the teichen of this Maimer. The Nikud of Yechudim is called Laskana Raza D'Shmei. The Eibishter made a place called Atzilus. And Atzilus is called Adam Elyon. Right? That's where Eibishter lives. And in Atzilus and Adam Elyon, there's Ein Sof. And there's a concept which you guys know from the Bar Mitzvah Maimer, which is called HaKadosh Baruch Hu Maniach Tefillin. Hashem puts on tefillin. But the funny thing about it is, it's a circle, yeah? Hashem puts on tefillin, so therefore we put on tefillin. But when we put on tefillin, the Eibishter puts on tefillin. The Eibishter responds to our mitzvahs. What's the pshat HaKadosh Baruch Hu Maniach Tefillin? In Atzilus, there's Ramach Eiverim. There's 248 limbs. And it says in Zeyar, Ramach Eiverim, Inun, Ramach, Pikudin. Right? Each mitzvah is one of the Ramach Eiverim. One of those 248 limbs is tefillin. Each time a Yid puts on tefillin, the Keli and Atzilus, which is connected to tefillin, is touched. How is it touched? So it's called in Medrash, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Maniach Tefillin. You put on tefillin, the Eibishter puts on tefillin. But what does it mean inside? The Keli is nirchav. The vessel becomes bigger. It's like exercising a muscle. The more you exercise a muscle, the stronger the muscle becomes. The more one puts on tefillin, the more Yidden put on tefillin, the stronger the Eivet, which is representative of tefillin, becomes. And technically what it means is that the Keli gets more detail. Kelim are made up of little pieces. They're not one big pot. They're little pieces. And the more Yidden put on tefillin, the more hispartus. The Kelim have more aspects, like more cells, and more Ein Sof is nimshach. And this is called Yichud Kochabrichu Shchinte. You and I do a mitzvah, something happens in Atzilus. Our action is able to reach and touch the Kelim of Atzilus. And it's marchiv the Kelim. And we're marchiv the Kelim, more Ein Sof is nimshach. And the more Yidden who do more mitzvahs, the more Ein Sof comes into Hatefilla. So this is called Yichudim. The Mekubalim speak about Yichudim. The Mekubalim don't speak about Deis Necheres and Midas Tevis. That's the Rishonim. The Mekubalim speak about Yichudim. Excuse me. When you do a mitzvah, you can Yichud and Atzilus. And this is just the Zeh HaChiloinu. This is just the beginning. And mitzvah tomorrow, I'll talk more about Yichudim. I'll give you a little bit of a Hagdama. Vetes Fanande reden. But while we're talking about Yichudim, I'm going to also talk to you about Birurim. I'll talk about all the different madregis of Tami HaMitzvah. So this is an excuse to have a conversation, which I like to have, which I haven't had in a while. So I'm going to have it with you now. Okay? Questions or comments?
If the whole reason of, according to the first two opinions, is that mitzvahs are for to make you a better person, how is it that some people who keep mitzvahs don't, like, they could keep more mitzvahs than anyone else?
And that's the ugliest mitzvahs in the world, because it's loy noga v'loy poga. You know, there's an expression. You can pile onto a donkey 1,000 books, and the donkey remains a donkey. You're 100% correct. And this, of course, is a big test. It's a big challenge. That, like the Rebbe used to say, the Friedrich Rebbe used to say, "Men darf lernen Torah, the Torah soll dir etwas lernen." If to learn Torah in such a way, the Torah should teach you something. And there's a mitzvah of people who are very smart and they're very frum. And it's loy noga v'loy poga. You're so right. I want you to know that there's a word from the Kotzker, which is it was worth for the Kotzker's neshama to come into this world to say this word. And the Kotzker has 1,000 like this. The Mendel Kotzker said the following, and listen carefully. And you're not going to fully understand it because you're just not old enough and you haven't lived enough. But it's really, really true. He said like this: A guter is a nar, a kluger is an apoketis. A frumer is a schlechter. Alle drei zusammen is a stickel mensch. That's a word from the Kotzker. A person who's kind is stupid. He's foolish. And people take advantage of him. A person who's smart is an apoketis. He has ideas in his head which are krum. A person who's frum is pashat, a bad person. Frum people are bad people. They're bad midas because they're gevura. If you have all three, you're a stickel mensch. A stickel mensch. What we talked about midas tevis begins when somebody realizes that you need all three. Not everybody has all three. Not everybody's kind. Not everybody's smart. And not everybody's frum. But everybody has to know that a shtickle mensch is not just a frumer. And a shtickle mensch is not just a guter. And a shtickle mensch is not just a kluger. You have to know in your head that to be a mensch, you have to have a brain, and you have to have a heart, and you have to be frum. The combination is where the midas tevis emerges. But if, let's say, your nature is frum, and you're not smart and you're not kind, so you're a bad person. You're very frum, and everything is gevuris and kanos, chenkomeo, and you're a bad person. Let's say you're only smart, so you think and you analyze, you come up with questions, and you come up with answers, become a shtickle apakatis, and then bleibt das. Let's say you're a nice guy, so you're very sweet, and you're always helping people, and you're a very nice guy, but you don't stand for anything. You have no principle. And you're right that in order for what we're describing to be effective, you have to have a combination of all three in Yonah. Okay?
Thank you.
So, I see people are disappearing as they left weg from fire. You want people to put people in rooms?
I put people in rooms.
Okay, so everybody go to your cheder anochen.
Rabbi, I'm making you host.
Okay, thank you. You can make a B'Yisrael host if you want. But okay, thank you.
Making you host.